to grow by its slowest pace.
Days of overstuffed wallets in your back pocket or purse might soon come to an end.
The economy ending the year on a strong note.
On the streets of Beijing, cash is definitely not king.
Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Sunday Stories with me, your host Farim Shinzadeh, where we cover ongoing headlines and meet interesting fucking guests. And today we'll deep dive in the banking system. We will talk about our consumption, finance, consumer behavior, money laundering, and much, much more. And as you might have guessed, I'm not really the best to talk about this topic. So in this episode, my co-host is Susanne Helin. She's an awesome power woman that has a master's degree in business economics and today works as head of business banking at Nordea.
Yeah, you've
Awesome.
been doing your homework.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's called LinkedIn. It's very great to have you in the show, by the way.
Thanks.
So it's the first time you're doing a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
First time for everything, isn't it?
First time for everything. It is. It definitely is. Just to, make it even more exciting, we have a segment in this podcast that's called Would You Rather? Do you know the game?
You're making me nervous now.
I am. That's
All
my
right.
job.
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, great. So let's just start with the first question. Would you rather live in a cave or live in a treehouse?
I'm afraid of heights,
Right.
but cave sounds kind of nasty. So I would say treehouse.
Treehouse.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, perfect. You see, you're doing very good already. Next question. Would you rather be able to control fire or water?
Fire.
Fire. What would you want to
Yeah.
control fire?
It's, I don't know. I get fears. That was a hard question.
I know. This is the point of these questions, just to think about it.
Both kind of dangerous stuff, but I would say fire.
Fire, okay. Well, you will be a good firefighter.
You would say that?
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. Would you rather live without internet or live without AC or heating?
Oh, that was really tough. I'm
Right.
depending on both,
It is.
But I would go to survival here, so I would say heating then.
Heating,
Yeah,
okay.
I hate to be cold. So
Right.
I'm from the north part of Sweden, so I'm used to the cold weather. But
Where are you from?
I'm from Luleå,
Luleå,
so it's pretty close to the
right.
Arctic Circle.
It is.
Yeah, polar bears walking around.
No way.
No, just
Like in the
I'm
city,
just
waiting for
kidding.
the bus.
Reindeers everywhere.
Wow.
No. It's actually a pretty cool place and a lot of entrepreneurs up there. A great hockey team and everything.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And I think it's a lot of students, right?
Yeah, they have a great
yeah.
technological university, with a space engineering program.
Oh, wow. And then we're moving to the next question.
Oh, yeah.
Would you rather be able to teleport anywhere or read minds?
I would say read minds would be awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
But imagine if you can't turn that off. Like you walk in the city
Oh, yeah.
and you just hear everybody's minds. I forgot to turn this off.
No,
I forgot this.
I changed my mind, actually. I would say teleporting myself, maybe to, a warmer place.
But you're from Luleå. You
No,
like
but I like Florida, and I studied in
Oh.
Australia, so I really like that.
You did.
So, no, I changed my mind. I
Okay.
used teleporting stuff instead.
Cool. So when were you in Australia?
Back in the 2002,
Okay.
so I studied in Wollongong, that is south of Sydney. So,
It is.
but it's a great country. People love to be there.
yeah, because
lot of-
everybody goes there.
Yeah.
Feels like that.
They're so friendly, and everything is so easy. It must be the weather, It's
Yeah.
always good weather there.
But you have all the crazy animals there as well, right?
Yeah,
All the spiders, all the snakes.
Yeah, I didn't see them much, but you always had bug spray, next to you if you needed it.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, moving on. Would you rather be unable to use search engines or social media? You have to delete one of them.
I really like my social media, so you can really get help through social media. So maybe
Right.
I will skip the search engines.
Search
then.
engine, okay.
I don't know. That's a hard
Goodbye,
one.
Google. Okay. And coming down to another question, which is not part of the would you rather, it's just a question. What is the color of money?
Green.
Green. What would you think is green?
But today it is like the sustainable finance discussion is so hot today. The topic of climate change, and everything has to really, maybe it was green before, you know, it is a saying, you know, cash is green, but now it is more about how sustainable can the investments and the savings, you know, how can it contribute? How can the financial industry contribute to climate change? And I think that's a really serious matter today, and it's really discussed and implemented more and more in the bank industry.
That is actually true.
So I would say green, of course.
Green, okay, perfect. And the last question before we move on to banking. Okay, let's say that after we finish this episode, you go out and you find lottery that you win $10 million. What's the first thing you do?
That was a really hard
Yeah,
one.
I mean, we're topping it
I
off.
would be really happy. So I think it's more about the feeling,
It
not
is.
what I'm doing.
But you have $10 million. It's crazy amount of money. What would you do?
I wouldn't stop my job, I think.
Okay.
I will get pretty bored. But I would just love to maybe travel a bit more. But also I think I was saying about the green shift, you know, to see how can you make better in society. I think that's where the great investments are coming from. And I think money is the helpful way. The capital needs to flow in that direction. So I would actually maybe try to be a green entrepreneur.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's see. Maybe after this episode, this actually happens.
I don't think
But
so.
then I want 10% of that.
That's a deal.
All right. So let's start with you telling us, what is your job? Like, what do you do day to day? What is banking?
Yeah. I've been in Nordea for 16 years. I never thought I was going to, start out as a banker, because I thought it was boring, with the cash and the different, it's a lot of paperwork back then. But then I realized it's a lot about the customers, and I love people. So I ended up, with our Nordea's trainee program, and specialized in the corporate field.
Right.
So in wholesale and business banking, and that is, with customers that are corporates. Today I work with mid-sized and large-sized customers, corporate clients, within the area pretty close to Stockholm, here in Mellansverige. So it's a great way, and I coached advisors, the bankers that I have in my team.
That's a pretty responsible job you have there.
Yeah, it's a great job, because I meet a lot of entrepreneurs all day.
True.
And to follow their path in the corporate world, to see how they can develop their companies into success.
Right.
Maybe they can have a crisis, maybe they're doing a big shift, success in their way.
True.
So helping them to grow is what I actually do.
When you work with corporate customers, is it sometimes frustrating that stuff is not moving as fast as you want them to move?
Depends kind of like what companies you are and what field they're in. You have a lot of traditional industries maybe that hasn't been changed that much, and then you have if you're in a fintechs or a tech company, have a totally different way of seeing change and adapting to new things. So you have a variety of strategies and how they work and how they implement new things. So maybe that's the thrill of it too, to see how they can change and move. You can see the young companies, just the startups, the new companies, and then you have the traditional ones that have been coming, from generation to generation. The kids are taking over, and how they can manage the new.
True.
So it's kind of exciting to see. It's so dynamic.
Right. So is there any industry that you would say is falling backwards? Everything is going forward, right?
Yeah.
But is there any industry that you would say this is a loophole in the market? They're not doing as great as fintech or food tech, or
I wouldn't say that, but I think all industries have challenges. Digitalization is a buzzword everywhere. That's because technology has evolved. It started to create new possibilities for people.
Right.
And the customer had changed. The behavior. They have different demands. They want it easy. They want it fast. They want it now, and technology can make that happen. But you can also see like the industrial part of it, big companies like that use a lot of robots, they have released main manual labor, so they can do other stuff.
Right. When you automate jobs, industrial jobs, most people get frustrated. Like, I will not have a job in maybe 1-2 years. So, and then you have the corporate side maybe that gain from this. But you meet this kind of customers. Like, what do they think of it? It must be hard to lay off people just to automate.
Definitely. It's kind of like seeing it from an efficiency point of view.
Yeah.
And I also like a profit and loss kind of view. Also, the competition is hard out there. You need to be in the game here.
Yeah.
But also, nobody wants to lose their job. But maybe there's another job for you. And that boring manual labor can be done much better by a robot.
True.
And then you can transfer yourself into more advanced tasks. And people have, all the years you have created new jobs. So maybe that's not something you need to be afraid of.
Right.
More embrace maybe.
True.
To see what's the good part coming out of that.
Yeah, because you have a big shift. Everyone wants the cheapest product possible, right?
Yeah.
Like today, it's always about the price.
Yeah.
And everybody's moving their manufacturing facilities to China or some other places. So it's very hard for Swedish companies or Europe companies
to compete.
To compete.
The competition is hard in that sense because it's driven by cost.
Yeah.
And how do you get lower costs? Maybe that is by automatization in some way. Maybe not all, but in some way. But I think in that sense, you need to see possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of like what the startup scene is today. Where can you see the hole in the market? I can also see retail, as an industry that has been changing a lot. Because our customers, they're not shopping in the physical stores anymore.
Right. There's a lot of stores closing. Like Teknikmagasinet was the latest, right?
Yeah. I think they got a new owner, so maybe
they
they're
did.
saved.
True.
But I think, online shopping has changed the customer behavior and demands there. And also the costs.
Right.
So businesses change and industries change. And also the business models in that way change.
Right.
And that's kind of like what's happening in banking too.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of 2 weeks ago or something. Some reports came out that Nissan was having some problems in China and was dropping sales. So they have to redo their entire business model, which is a very old company. It's very hard to just switch.
Yeah.
And I guess it's so for banking as well, right?
Definitely. They always say, Kodak is they had the first digital camera and other. Where are they today? Because you have a lot of collaboration going on with fintechs. There are new, they have specific skills in developing new products and services digitally. So I think that's a good collaboration to join ventures together in order to be fast to market. So you can see that a lot happening in the industry today. It has been ongoing for several years now, but it has been established.
Yeah. As you were saying, like in the beginning, the view of banking is, I think it's stiff, and most people when they hear banking, they hear massive bailouts or stiff corporation but.
Are you saying boring?
That is basically what I'm going for. But I think when you start to look into the services that you guys do, you actually find it very interesting. But how do you measure like customer behaviors? Like there's so much data out there, and you guys have so much data.
Yeah.
How do you guys like determine what is the future service that we have to deliver?
You kind of look in the customer behaviors right now. What do they do? How do they behave? Used back in the days, I started 16 years ago in the bank. people were lining up outside at 10 o'clock when the bank opened, the branch office. Damn. Today, if you ask my kids, I don't even know if they know where the bank is located. So kids of today and, millennials are growing up.
Right.
So they have totally different patterns of how they use the bank today. And I think Bill Gates said a couple of years ago, people don't need banks, they need banking. That's kind of like the essence of what's happening. So we measure, we see how many are coming in today. What do they need? What do they ask for? The customer demand is a lot. You want your loan application to get, approved.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Not
true.
in 2 weeks.
That's crazy
So
demand.
you need your cell phone, and you use that, and you want your answer immediately. So what does that mean in our processes, and how do we do stuff? So we cannot do it like the old school manual way.
Yeah.
You know, to do it like fast digitally, also in order to deliver to the customer.
True.
So the customer satisfaction, in the industry are, fintechs are getting high ratings, and the traditional banks a little bit lower.
True.
Because we're a little bit slower. But we also offer different things. So
Right.
So you have to really listen to the customer, what they want, and they don't go to the branch office, but they use their cell phone 28 times each month to do banking.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of more interactions with the bank today, just like if you compare to 5 years ago.
True. Is this scenario like applicable for all countries? Like, for example, if you go to Africa, is the banking system as developed as Sweden, or is there a lot to do there? Or maybe Nordea has some corporations?
Yeah, but that's a really interesting question. The Nordics are really front runner. We are really digital. We like cashless.
Yeah.
We have, Swish. You
True.
can swish each other cash, through your cell phone. And different countries have different solutions here. But in the Nordics, we're really digitally, we like the mobile bank.
True.
In Africa, they kind of like skip the part, So they're really mobile too. They use their mobile a lot doing banking.
Okay.
So I would say they're coming a lot.
Yeah,
so
it's a very developing
definitely.
place,
No,
right.
and it's a global trend.
Yeah.
You can see like it's more integrated in everything. So like in China, you have WeChat. So that's like an app that you can do everything.
Yeah,
you can make
yeah.
payments and everything. In
That's a
that.
very good way for the government to control all kinds of services.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. It seems like a good, from a consumer behavior aspect, I think it's very convenient and easy and fast. But I'm not so into the details.
Right. Let's move on to crime. Okay, it's more darker theme. How do you guys deal with money laundering and criminal organizations that are fueling this, drug trades and all of this that's happening in Sweden as well?
This is a society issue. Of course, it's not a really banking issue in that sense, but banks are a really important part of the society's ecosystem. So, of course, we play a really important role. You have read the news, you see the headlines all the time, about money laundering and everything. So it's a really serious issue.
Must be very hard because, like, today it's not only in one country, it's concerning, all around the world.
It's all linked together.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes it harder. But also you have a lot of the UN, the EU, you have hard regulations of how all the banks are supposed to, follow the rules and regulations in order to minimize this. So you have international sanctions that everybody needs to follow. And if you do that, it makes it harder for criminal activity. So we need to do everything we can in order to prevent it.
Yeah.
But this is for all the banks. So the regulation is really hard. It's really clear here.
Yeah. Well, as you were mentioning, that's also like one of the reasons why the speedboat is very hard to achieve because you have so much rules and regulations to follow. Right?
Definitely, it's a big compliance issue. So that's where you have the big data and know your customer that is really in focus. And that's like if you need to be a speedboat in our fintech company, you can by collaboration use that to get also the regulation part. That can be really hard when you're a small company to fulfill all the financial regulation that is out there.
There's a lot of money in the society right now, and it's very easy to borrow. It's very easy to buy, which is very connected these days because usually like maybe 10 years ago, if I go back to my dad, for example, if my dad would buy a phone, he would pretty much say, I'm going to save for 10,000 crowns, 1,000 crowns each month, you know. What we do is, we have, this deal, we're just going to buy it today. So do you feel like this is a problem that we borrow our behavior? Like we want the solutions now, we want the products now.
Definitely, customers today are I go to myself. I'm impatient. I want it now. And that's kind of like driven all this. We can also see that debt is going up in society. A lot of young people are getting into problems with their personal debt. And that's like maybe not just in Sweden, I would say. No. That's why you need to educate people. You need to we are in the schools. I talk to young students a lot about the importance of having a sustainable personal finance.
Right.
You need to know the consequences of how you handle your money. And I think it's up to you how you do it. True. But I would, recommend the savings and investment part in that sense.
It's very hard. The vision we give these days to kids or millennials or Generation Z, whatever we call them, it's basically through movies and music, and all of them are actually telling them, get the cash now or get the car now. So it's very hard for the society to say otherwise. And I think it's going to be harder and harder because people are not going to stop shopping. People are not going to be saving 500 crowns a month. They will want to have the shoes now. Is there other ways to deal with this problem except educating, like limiting people of buying stuff?
I would say education is really important.
Right.
School have a lot of responsibility here, but also parents, teach your kids how to use money. Right. And in this, my kids don't know what cash is. They think it's a card, and not even the card, because I use Apple Pay or Google Pay, so I use the cell phone.
You're really high tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I just click home stuff, so it's done through mobile payments.
Yeah.
But I also think that the sustainable debate going on is going to change some customer behavior. Right. How much are you supposed to shop?
Right.
Is that really good for the environment or for the climate or for society as a whole? So I think younger people today are going to feel like maybe that's not going to be the way to go.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to shop, and what am I choosing in order to? Is that good for the climate?
Right.
So I actually think that could prevent and shifting customer and consumer behavior in a better direction.
Wow. Yeah, that's
today.
Actually true. Actually, I never thought of the environmental aspect.
You can really see it clearly today.
Wow.
Maybe that's Greta Thunberg has done a great job, putting it on the agenda here in Sweden and globally. But I think you can see that people are thinking more about how they invest. And that's why products in the banking industry like green loans, green bonds, green funds, everything is changing into the sustainable part.
Right.
And you can make a great difference, like your carbon footprint can be much better if you use green alternatives within like where you put your savings money in. So maybe that can change a bit, like you said.
True. The problem with the world is that, we're not alone. And sometimes I feel like we do a lot of good stuff in Sweden, right? We do a lot of good stuff in Europe as a whole. But then you have, United States, and then you have China, that basically 1 billion people still drive, this bad cars or still buys this bad alternatives. Will it matter in the end?
Sweden is a small country. Yeah, I agree. But also you can make a big difference. Look at Greta. She's made a great impact, and you can be influencing people. You can have innovations coming from Sweden or the Nordics that can, change the car industry or whatever it can be. So I think you can be really proud of creating new things in order to feed that green wave.
Right, yeah.
And that's it doesn't matter if it's a small country or big country. But of course it can make a great impact in the bigger societies than Sweden is. But you can see Europe as an example, how can we influence and do better and have a great part in the UN to drive the green change.
You also have a lot of responsibility on the companies, like the big corporations.
Yeah.
For example, the fashion industry, which now is called fast fashion, like H&M and Zara. Basically, what you did like a couple of years ago, it was like one collection maybe took 2 years, right? And then you had 4 different kind of releases. Today, you have 52 new releases. So basically, every week we're doing new fashion that we want people to buy, right?
Yeah.
So you have the one side, which, like you said, you have to educate kids and parents. But how do we educate the corporations? You know, because it's about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the income.
But here you can see that markets are really effective. You know, the market demand. You know, the shareholders and the stakeholders around the companies are also demanding a green shift.
Yeah.
So if you're a supplier to a company and they say we have a green agenda here, you need to be green too in order to deliver stuff to me.
Oh yeah.
So that will make the change. So I think that that's actually is a bigger debate today. You can really see that H&M got their new CEO.
Right, they
last
switched,
week.
right? Yeah.
And she's their sustainable finance officer.
Oh.
So you can really see that many are trying. And you need to also see how is this recyclable. You know, that has become an issue maybe in the fashion industry. How do you recycle old clothes? How do you use them longer? How can you rent clothes today instead of buying them?
It's a lot about renting, not owning stuff today,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, my parents come from a different age, but they're also technical. But for them, not owning stuff feels, uncertain. Because back in the days, it was all about getting the job, buying your house, buying your car, and owning as much stuff as possible, right? And today you always borrow. Is that an issue because you actually have no assets? Like basically a person is worth nothing in the economy because we borrow everything.
But I think also maybe that you have a lot of more options today, and people are having a pretty good life today, much more in middle class today than maybe back in the day. So, but I would say that's really hard. It is trends, and that maybe that you borrow more has been. It wasn't like that before. It was like you said, you saved before you purchased something.
Yeah. For an environmental aspect, that's very good. But I mean, if you work in banking, for example, right, and let's say that I come to Nordea and I want to borrow for something, wouldn't you guys look for my assets, like what I own and?
Definitely, and we will look for your cash flow.
Right.
Like, what is your cash flow? Can you afford this?
Yeah.
And that is bad advice if you cannot afford it.
Yeah.
We will not loan you the cash.
So you will more look in the income side than the asset side.
The assets are important too.
Okay.
But if you have a bad cash flow, I would say that maybe you cannot afford it.
Right.
So it's still important. Definitely, that hasn't changed. But it has, new loan products and different consumer behavior has changed, the demands, and that's where companies have seen opportunities also.
Do you think that we have to put up regulations for loans? For example, you have this popular, in Sweden we call it SMS loan, but text message loan, I think you call it fast loan.
Yeah.
Which is crazy amount of interest and really bad, terms. And, people are not educated enough. So do you think that we have to put up some regulations of how the loans should be handled, like a better regulations for it?
That's more of a state question, I would say, but they are kind of regulated. I don't know exactly how, but if you see in the banking industry, like the traditional banks, we need to see that there is an income that can match that cost. And if it can't, we cannot lend you the money. Yeah. So there are regulations doing this, but maybe the question was, should it be even more?
Yeah, I mean, 1,000% interest.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers. how is it even legal to, to sell that kind of products? You guys don't have it, but
No,
yeah,
you're
right.
asking the wrong person. But yeah, definitely, can that be questioned?
Yeah.
But I think if you go to the consumer, you need to really be informed about this and make good personal economic decisions before you do investments like that.
Right.
To see what options do you have, I would say.
True. Well, it's a very hard question, and you were answering them very, very good. I think it's time to move on to the future, right? 10 years from now. Now, what's going to happen in the banking industry 10 years from now?
Well, if I knew that, I think it's going to be even more easy, more seamless, even more integrated. You're not going to feel like you're doing banking stuff, You just, like Amazon Go, when you shop there, you just go into the store, pick what you want, and you leave, and then you're paid and everything.
Yeah.
You don't meet a cashier or anything. I think they're going to be a lot more, even better apps and digital solutions. With really high security. Of course, that's going to be a really important question going forward. Of course, it is today and still will be.
Like cyber security? Or,
definitely.
Is there a lot of things happening in that area? Because I feel like every product that's released is always about making it easier and not safer,
It is a combination. You need to combine that because it needs to be. So if you look at the banking industry, security is really highly on the agenda. So that would still be important, of course.
Right.
I think fintechs are going to be a really important part. They grow, they come up with new ideas, innovation, but also become much more established. You have a lot of big fintechs that have become really big companies with thousands of people employed. So you're going to see that even more. So new competition coming in to the industry, I would say, and the banking advisors that you see today, they're going to still be providing, advanced advice, but like the more traditional, easy everyday banking is going to be done much more automatically.
Do you think you guys gonna have offices like that you can visit and talk to people, or is it?
I actually think so, because it's still people still want to meet. We're social people. We want to, a handshake is a handshake.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it's going to be a part of that great customer experience to meet people. Like when you have a problem, you really feel like I can rely on this person. I can get help here.
That's actually true. Especially if you have money issues, you do not want to have like a robot maybe that's like a generation thing, Yeah. The late boomers or maybe the millennials is still okay with it, but Generation Z or Y, whatever they call it, that 2030 is gonna generate. Maybe they're gonna have different behaviors.
Definitely.
Like virtual reality that you put on your glasses and just meet.
Yeah, you can see that coming.
Right.
But I still think you need to provide great services, and that can be both digital and personal. You can really see the increase in the digital services, like the robots and the chatbots and instant meetings in your phone and in whatever way. So it's going to be a lot like anywhere, anytime. So it's
that's a new slogan.
Yeah, it's like 24/7. It's not anymore about the opening hours for the branch office.
Right,
That's not important. It's more about being accessible all the time.
So I think Europe is doing a lot of things to develop this, but you have a lot of countries that's still depending on this cash.
Definitely. Maybe they will not disappear totally. I'm not saying that, but you can really see a shift in more less cash.
Yeah. I think it was last week, we got a present for cash present for we getting married, so we got like a cash present, and it was the first time I had this problem that I have to put the cash to my card, and it was incredibly hard. It was so hard. I actually got here with my wife, and we asked like, where is the place that you can put it? She's like, no, we don't have them anymore. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Not anymore?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do to this? Because shops are not gonna take it, you know. So it was a massive problem. And then we found one place in the entire city that you can actually, you know, give your money and they will transfer it to cards. So is that gonna disappear as well? Like, you will have no places that takes cash.
No, I think you're still gonna have a place that provide cash.
Yeah.
But there is
Because the old people still use it, right?
Yeah, they kind of do, but maybe also a lot of old people don't use cash.
Right.
They feel that the card is a really good the card is really a good way to pay, to make payments.
Right.
So it depends on, it's kind of like a personal, what do you feel is the best way of paying yourself.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for being a part of Sunday Stories. It has been amazing to talk about banking. And my view on banking has changed, definitely. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.